Supercharge from Smart Grower. This is a mycorrhizal beneficial bacteria soil amendment. If you've never used mycorrhizal fungi, what it is specific species of fungus that colonize the roots, and they form a symbiotic relationship with the plant where the fungus harvests nutrients from the soil like minerals, specifically phosphorus, which really helps with blooming and fruiting, and it will feed that back to the roots of the plant in exchange for getting the photosynthetic properties of the plant. So the carbohydrates are going to be fed from the plant through the roots to the fungus, and nutrients and water are going to be shared back to the plant from the fungus to the roots. So what we're going to do here is take these two Brandywine tomato starts, and I just want to clean these up a little bit. You can take these suckers that are on here and you don't even need rooting hormone. You could just put this in some moist soil and this is going to root in a week or two and you're going to have another tomato plant. If you're not familiar with taking cuttings from tomatoes, they're a great place to start because they're super easy to get roots to start. As you can see, all those little fine hairs along the stem will form rootlets. So unlike a lot of plants which will only form roots below the seed leaves, these tomatoes, you can even plant them sideways in the soil and you're going to get roots growing out of anywhere. You can actually start a tomato from a piece of leaf, stick that in moist soil, and come back a few weeks later and you're going to have roots growing out of that leaf section. Anytime you've got tomato leaves that are anywhere near your soil or within the splash zone of watering, you're going to want to remove those, because that's going to make your tomato a really easy target for early blight. We're going to do one start in one pot with the Smart Grower Supercharge, and then we're going to take this other one and plant it over here in this other pot without it. I've got some potting mix here. We'll get that one about 2/3 full, and we'll get this one about 2/3 full as well. These are number 5 pots. I'm going to go ahead and plant our control first. Then we'll go ahead and just tease these roots out a little bit, and we're going to get that down into the soil. And that is our first Brandywine tomato in a 5-gallon pot. So same thing, we'll want to go ahead and take this Brandywine tomato start out of the nursery pot. And what we're going to do is take a scoop of this Supercharge and we're going to inoculate the root system. And we really want to make sure that we're getting contact with the root zone. We've got a nice coating on here, and I'm just going to bring that soil right back around so that all of that inoculant is in there, and we're going to top it off with the rest of our potting mix here. Go ahead and put those plant tags in there so we remember that those are Brandywine. Make sure that that soil is nice and compacted so that the root zone is making contact with the inoculant. We've got both of these Brandywine tomatoes side by side. The one on the right here has been planted with the Supercharge. It's a really good way to kickstart the biological life in the root zone. If you're container gardening, it's really important because you're most likely starting with a sterile potting mix that doesn't have any living stuff in it. So you're going to want to really establish a nice beneficial bacteria colony in that soil along with the mycorrhizae. So the last thing that we need to do here is to water. So just gently mist top of the soil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these drip trays up and we're going to water from the bottom. That's one tip I highly recommend when you're container gardening, is to bottom water your plants. It will wick the water up into the root zone over the next couple hours and it will evenly hydrate those tomato starts. This is a great way to boost your production in the garden. Increased yields, healthier, more disease-resistant plants. You can also add scoops of this to your compost tea. So if you're going to brew a batch of compost tea in an aerator, go ahead and throw a spoonful of this in there with your molasses and your compost, and it's really going to supercharge that. Let it bubble for 24 hours and you're going to multiply the bacteria that are in there. This is an inoculant. Once you populate the soil with this, if you keep the soil healthy, those populations of mycorrhizal fungi and beneficial bacteria are going to continue to propagate themselves throughout the root zone. So be sure to follow my page and check back. We'll do a couple updates throughout the summer.